Welcome to Restore 2022. Today we're having a look at 1 Corinthians 9. Now, when we remember that the division of the Bible into chapters is an artificial aid for study purposes, it becomes clear that this chapter is simply a continuation of the previous one. Paul has explained that if food makes his brother stumble, he'll never eat certain meats if this is the cause of his brother stumbling. Of course, he's free to eat and drink anything he likes, but he chooses to surrender his own freedom in order to safeguard the faith of others. He sums it up in verse 12 when he asserts, "We endure anything rather than put an obstacle in the way of the gospel of Christ." This is an alien concept to many within the Corinthian church. They are self-centered and self-indulgent. They take one another to court and demand their rights rather than suffer wrong. And in chapter 11, we will learn that even their fellowship meal at the Lord's Supper is marred by rank greed and indifference to the needs of others. They live for themselves and for themselves alone. They are acting in a way that is the very opposite of a gospel-driven lifestyle. And so Paul uses his own experience to illustrate what a Christian life looks like. As he said in chapter 4, he's urging them to be imitators of himself. For him, apostleship was not the result of a personal career choice. It was a necessity laid on him by the unsolicited call of God. His work is to declare the gospel of a crucified Saviour who gave himself up as a sacrifice for sin, and is determined that his preaching of this gospel won't be compromised by the way he lives. Consequently, whilst every profession has a right to be rewarded for its effort, and while even the law of Moses affirms this, Paul has deliberately sacrificed his rights so he can present the gospel free of charge. He will never be accused of peddling it for his own gain. And as he explains in chapter 13, love doesn't insist on its own way. The Corinthians have much to learn, and Paul concludes his argument with an example that is very familiar to them. For every 2 years, Corinth hosted the Isthmian Games. It was a sporting event that was second only to the Olympics. They understood how hard athletes had to train, how disciplined and self-denying they had to be to achieve competitive fitness. Well, Paul also exercised rigorous self-discipline so he wouldn't be disqualified from preaching the gospel. And the unspoken inference is that the church of Corinth must imitate him in this endeavour to be holy.